street food. Expedition Huangshan.
Welcome back to Street Food Season 6 and our expedition to a Chinese mountain. My friend Nate and I are just one day into our journey, so we woke up on the second morning in the city of Hefei. So I use Wiki Travel for a lot of tips about local sites. Now the great thing about Wiki Travel, and they're not paying me to say this, okay, I'm not in the Wiki Travel pocket, is that there are a lot of Chinese cities featured. Even small cities, even like little towns outside of small cities, you can find some information about those places on Wiki Travel. They got where to stay, if there's some kind of local delicacy, or if there's some site that you really want to catch while you're there. The downside is that pretty much anybody can contribute to Wiki Travel. So you get a few grumpy travelers into the mix and they just pile on a whole lot of suck. Just complain about everything. You know, y'all need to remember Thumper, okay?
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Rest in peace, Bambi Daddy. Hefei is the biggest city in Anhui province with about 7.5 million people. There's a fair amount to do in this city. One of the central features of Hefei is Bao Gong Park, which was built in honor of Lord Bao, aka Bao Gong, aka Bao Zheng. He's got a lot of names because he was real famous. His tomb is in the park, along with the Qingfeng Tower, which pays a lot of tribute to Anhui culture. I really like that Bao Gong is so famous. He was a political official during the Song dynasty about 1,000 years ago in China, and he's famous because he was very fair. In a culture that was dominated by imperial rule and power, and kind of all that matters is who you know, and who your dad is, and how much money you have, Bao Gong made a lot of changes to the local political system to give people kind of a more equal voice, but he did it in a really Chinese way, so people really respected him, and he just gained more and more power and authority throughout his career in life. So these days, he's kind of like a political folk hero. I find it really interesting because in many ways, Chinese culture is about relationship. Who you know matters a lot more here than it does in the West. Yet, even though that's the accepted norm, Bao Gong and the things he was able to achieve are still admired and respected. We tried to stay in a youth hostel in Hefei. This is harder than you might think. Some of the Wiki Travel information was outdated. I asked a taxi driver about the place. He had no idea where it was. Obviously, I had no idea. I'd never been there before. Another thing you find when you're traveling in China is that a lot of the hotels, especially the smaller ones, don't have a license to serve foreigners, so you'll show up and they won't be allowed to rent you a room. These kind of things can really make choosing a place to stay ahead of time complicated, but our taxi driver helped us out. He took us to a nearby hotel that wasn't too expensive, nicer than we planned to stay in, but we could still afford it. After the park, we bought bus tickets to Tunxi, which is a 4-hour ride from Hefei in Anhui province, and while we waited, we got some noodles. You can find halal restaurants like this all over China. You gotta be really careful what you bring in the restaurant. You can't bring any other food in. Most of them are pretty serious about that. But you can really trust the food to be clean. So we're out here straight up on the street. Out of all the places here, this is the one that most likely is the cleanest in terms of how they prepare the food, and it's also delicious. Nate and I both got Gai Mian. Gai Jiao means dumped on top of, or poured over, more or less. You can get lots of different kinds of Chinese dishes poured over rice or noodles. If you get it over rice, it's called Gai Fan. And if you get it over noodles, it's called Gai Mian. These noodles are super fresh, they pull them right in front of you, and then you choose a dish that you want. Nate got cdzadek, which is fried egg and tomato. You're straight up eating it on the street right now. I got tudou, which is a shredded potato dish that they spice in a really particular way. It's got some cumin, it's a little spicy. It's got a particular flavor that you know when you taste it, and it's good. They cook the dishes in the back, then dump them over noodles and serve them immediately. You mix it together and you eat it, and it's awesome. They also do a version over cold noodles, which is great in the summer. I just love noodles. You know, noodles are so good. Fresh noodles like this outside a bus station, come on. We also had some xiao mein. Seen these on the show before, still legit. Rice and meat and mushrooms wrapped in a kind of wonton wrapper and then steamed. After that, we hopped on a bus to Tunxi. Tunxi has a ton of local snacks, including this hairy tofu, which I will be trying in the next episode. Hefei is not first on anyone's list of the best places to see in China, but our time there was pretty chill, which is what we needed. We wanted a place to relax after spending all that time on a train. Before we finish, it's time for another street food giveaway. Nate and I, as you know, we're backpacking on this trip, which means we both brought one backpack apiece. Nate and I packed very different things in our backpack. So we both made a list of 40 things that we had in our backpack, not the same stuff. So here's how you win the contest. Go into the comments sometime this week and make a list of up to 20 items for Nate and 20 items for me that you think we had in our backpack. Whoever gets the most correct will win something cool that I actually bought on this trip to Huangshan. I realize this contest is a bit labor intensive, but do you know what else is labor intensive? Sending you something from China. It's not easy. Until next week, Eat it on the street. Watch out for the parasites.
Street food.
Thanks for watching, Street Foodies. Be sure to check me out on Patreon. As you support the show, I'm able to take more trips like this, eat more snacks, and maybe eventually buy a better camera. Look at this thing shaking. That's no good.